This is You're Probably Right. Entertainment first, everything else is just bonus. Opinions, all ours. Sometimes backed by research, but never the final word. There are always exceptions, so take it with a grain of salt and a slight dusting of chili powder.
How you doing? It's MCM, and this is You're Probably Right podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me. Why, oh why, you still want them after their behavior has already answered you and told you exactly who they are and what they want? Listen, this is episode 339 of You're Probably Right podcast. And I should have known something was wrong long before it ended. So many people say that, right? Or maybe ended is the wrong word. Because some things do not end properly. They blur. They cool. They thin out. They stop feeding you, but they never quite tell you that they are dead. And that is what makes them dangerous, really. You see, this episode is for the people who were never fully chosen, never fully dismissed, never given a clean ending, but still got damaged like they were in a real relationship. This is for the people who keep asking themselves, why do I still want more, one more even moment with someone whose behavior has already answered me and told me what the deal is? Why do I keep looking? Why do I keep searching? Maybe you're in denial. Who knows? Today, I want to talk through and walk through exactly why that happens. I want to talk about why the beginning can feel so real, why emotional access gets mistaken for chosen, why desire in the moment is not the same as intention over time, why shame can deepen attachment. You know, I'm kind of thinking about that where it says why desire in the moment is not like, or is not the same as intention over time. I said tension, I think. Well, maybe not. Well, tension over time builds muscles, and I guess intention over time builds relationships. Why effort and overgiving become repair attempts. Why some people refuse to end things clearly. Why one more moment feels so powerful in your mind, and why healing starts when you let pattern be the answer. You know, let me just segue for a sec. It's kind of weird how someone will not choose you. They don't want anything pretty much to do with you. They have been given so much from you, but they treat you like you're their enemy at some level. It's kind of strange. It is really strange. Check it out. Because if you don't understand the structure of this kind of bond, you will keep blaming yourself for reacting normally to something that was never really clean in the first place. And that blame will just keep you stuck. And I want to get you unstuck. Listen. First of all, when the beginning feels real, let's start at the beginning, because that's where people get judged too fast. A lot of people on the outside look at the ending and say, well, clearly it was nothing. Clearly you imagined it, and clearly you got attached by yourself. But that is not how a lot of these things actually happen. People can just say things sometimes. What traps people is that the beginning often does feel real. And there is warmth, right? There is chemistry. There is encouragement. There is body language. There is intimacy in their tone and what they say. There is enough mutuality in the beginning to make you feel like this is becoming something. And sometimes when you look back, if you have no proof, you can believe that lie that it was just you. There was no warmth, there was no chemistry, and the person didn't encourage the situation. There was no body language, and they weren't saying things intimately that made you feel like there was a level of intimacy between the two of you. But if you have voice messages, text messages, pictures, videos of your interactions or whatever, you can plainly see it. They were this way, and then they were that way. And I think even if you have that proof and everything just kind of popped and fizzled away, first of all, you have to realize if it is bothering you, you're just not that type of person. Frankly, if someone can act all cozy and warm over, say, months, not hours, not days, months, and then all of a sudden just start pulling back. There was no big blow up, there was no big argument, there was no big disagreement. If anything, you were giving, loving, sharing, caring. But yet, the more you pulled closer, the farther they pulled away. And maybe you're at the point where you guys don't talk and they behave like if the very sight of you makes them sick and they don't even want to hear your voice. And nothing adds up. Yes, this episode is for you. Those who are stuck somewhere in that place they call limbo. And you can't figure out which way is up because this person got you so discombobulated, so dysregulated. You feel just dissed on a whole. People don't get stuck only because they're weak. And maybe they are, right? Maybe you're a little weak. Just incy, bincy, little bitty, itty bitty. People get stuck because enough happened to make later withdrawal feel totally irrational. I've been there. And that is the first truth, really. The hardest situations are not the ones where nothing happens or the person gives you the boot out of the relationship and says you got bad breath and they think you're really ugly, but they were just trying to give you a break. Nah. Listen, they're the ones where enough happened to make you believe it was going somewhere. And once your body believes that, once your emotions believe that, once your imagination, time spent alone, starts building around that, you are not dealing with a casual disappointment anymore. You are dealing with contradiction. You are trying to understand how something that felt open became closed all of a sudden. How something that felt mutual became one-sided. How something that felt alive became so vague. It almost feels evil. spiritually even. And that's what traps people. And certainly, it doesn't help that you're probably drawn away by your own lusts. You see, it's not just ambiguity at the end, the certainty at the beginning that never grew into a real pattern. And then, secondly, emotional access is not the same as being chosen. A lot of these situations do not begin in a clean place in the first place. Maybe you're a rebound. Maybe they said they were broken and you said you didn't need to be Prince Charming or Snow White. You just wanted to be around and be friend and be a support. And it turned into something else really, really, really quickly. And you feel like maybe like you've known this person for 10 years and you've only known them for 3 months. What do they do first? Well, they begin in emotional clutter. There's loose ends, there's old complications, old situations, old relationships, there's third parties, there's unresolved stories, there's best friends, there's somebody saying they want peace while standing totally in confusion. And if you're not careful, that can feel like intimacy because they're confiding in you. You must trust me, right? They told you they trust you. They're telling you personal things. They are letting you know what other people may be doing or what have they done to them. Maybe people don't get to see what they're telling you. So you feel like you made it on the inside of the circle of trust, right? You start feeling like you're being let in. It's a wonderful feeling. You start feeling like you matter. You start feeling like maybe you are becoming their safe place. But sadly, being allowed near somebody's unresolved, tortured, broken life is not the same as being chosen with actually real clarity. And the distinction matters, right? Because emotional access is not the same as emotional selection. Sometimes what feels like closeness, right, in the beginning is really just access to somebody's unresolved world. And they want to dump it out on somebody. And maybe you were just that person. You were just that somebody. Maybe the other people their relationship or they've thought about having a relationship with don't even want to hear about it. So you're there, you playing your position, you get the updates, you get the confiding, the emotional weather report, the stories about who hurt them and what they gave them, and the stories about who wants them now and who hasn't given up on them and who keeps circling back around for them and who sent gifts or roses to their house and who bought them this and who bought them that. And all of that can create a feeling of false depth, especially if you are a thoughtful person, especially if you bond through meaning, especially if you're naturally a person who tries to really, really understand people. You may not remember every last thing, but the things you do remember, you ingest it and you give the person some sort of proper reflection on what you really think of what they've gone through or what they've been through or what they're doing and things they need to do and things they shouldn't have done and etc. Because now you're not only just attracted, you're positioned. You feel like the one who understands, the one who listens to them, the one who is different, right? From the chaos around them. You're different. The one who might become the calm after the mess. The role can, well, that role can hook a person deeply. You have purpose. Maybe you haven't had purpose for a long time. Sometimes people do not just fall for the person, they fall for the role that they think that they are about to play in their life. Hang on, I'm going to get my puffer. Next, we're going to go into real in the moment is not real long term. Thirdly, some people are very real in the moment and still not real in long terms. They're almost like actors, like it's totally believable. If there's tears, the tears are real on the moment. Their laughter is real. Their hug is real. Their smile is real. Their time that they try to put in at the beginning is real. They really want to be there. They say it themselves. You don't have to prod them. The prodding comes later. And that is why the situations are so confusing, really, because the attraction may have been actually real. The desire may have been real. The invitation may have been real. The intimacy may have been actually real when they looked at you the way they did, right? But real in the moment is not the same thing as stable in a pattern. A person can be sincere in desire and unserious in structure. It's kind of like a drug addict, right? And no offense to anybody who's been caught up in drugs, but it's like you really want what you want when you want it. But when you get it, when you've used it, when you've dealt with it in one way, shape, or form, and afterwards, when you know everything's not right, there's regret. And you're there, same person, an hour later is like, why did I do that? So much, I think a lot of the time people get into these situations with a person who switches up on them. I think sometimes you're just drawn away, honestly, by your own lusts, your own desire for certain things that maybe you never had, or maybe you got and you lost, or maybe you had and it wasn't real. So this time you thought things were real. And that really sucks for you because who knows how long you were already in a bad situation and came out and recovered and became yourself and was comfortable in your own skin, and then this person, they seemingly saw you, and then they didn't want to see you anymore. Right? A person can be sincere in desire and unserious in structure, and that sentence explains a lot, really, of a lot of heartbreak that a lot of people have had, because if you don't understand that, you can keep using early intensity as proof of future intention. And then what happens when it isn't? You keep thinking, this can't be becoming nothing because it was way too charged in different ways, in more than one way. It can't become vague because it felt too mutual. You were both pulling at each other's heartstrings. It can't become distant because it felt too embodied. Where did this person go? But it can. Not because you imagined it and really at all, because early energy is not the same as real foundation. There's other things at play, literally. And that's why the mind gets trapped, because now you're not only grieving the present and what you thought would be, you are trying to make sense of the past and grieving the future, even because everything has been turned upside down or on its ear at least. But you're there sitting there, and what do you ask yourself? The many times that you've gone over the situation, you try to figure out when it changed. Was it a look? Was it a conversation with you or a conversation with someone else? Was there a turning point? Did they see you in a bad angle? Did your breath stink one day? Was it something I did, you ask yourself? Something I said? Was it something I failed at? Did somebody beat me out over here or over there? Maybe sometimes there was, and you did. But often, the deeper truth is so much more simple. The connection had enough charge to bond you, to stick you to them, but not enough structure to hold you. Fourthly, shame. If you didn't know, shame, embarrassment makes attachment worse. And that's where it gets humiliating, really, because a lot of these unclear bonds, right? There's something that happens that damages one person's confidence. And it's almost like the other person puts the first person's confidence in their pocket. There's a rejection, an embarrassment, a moment of insecurity, a moment where you suddenly feel less than desirable, less powerful, less chosen. And after that, you are often no longer just relating naturally. Nah, you are now trying to recover, trying to compensate. That changes pretty much everything, because now the attachment is mixed with shame. And shame can make a person cling harder, try harder, over-explain, over-give, over-perform. Not because the bond is healthier, because they are trying to restore something in themselves that now feels damaged in it. It may be the person seemingly is holding whatever it is that can fix them, set them free, bond them back together. And this is where the overinvestment often begins. Sometimes overinvestment is not just about love, really, or love at all. Sometimes it's panic after shame. Maybe if I do more, it will come back. Maybe if I become more thoughtful, more generous, more available, I can reverse whatever shifted. Maybe if I prove my value hard enough, I can get back to where this felt safe. And that's very human and very dangerous, because now the bond is not only romantic, it has become tied to self-worth. And then, fifthly, there's effort becomes a repair attempt. Now we need to talk about effort. A lot of people think gifts are just effort. Sometimes they are, but inside an unstable bond. Gifts, patience, availability, listening, emotional labor, all of it can become something else. Repair attempts, you are not only expressing care, you are trying to hold the connection together by yourself. And underneath that care, there is often fear. Fear that the bond is slipping, fear that you are losing your place, fear that you are no longer being seen the same way. So you give more, right? And what you're really saying underneath is all of this. Please let this still mean something. Please let me still matter in here. Please let this still be enough that I do not have to feel like an idiot. That's why one-sided efforts hurt so much. You're not only grieving the object of your affection, you're grieving what you hoped the effort would prove. Your place, your significance, your value, all in their life. And when somebody receives all of that without matching it, without clarifying anything, without protecting the bond, without promising you anything, you discover something very, 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 very humiliating. The same moment meant different things to both of you. What felt symbolic to you may have felt pleasant to them. What felt bonding to you may have felt temporary to them. And when you look back on your messages, you can see the temporariness of it. What felt like evidence to you may have felt like atmosphere to them. That hurts in a very, very specific way. Some people feel less than zero after that. And sixth, why some people never end it properly. You see, why do some people refuse to end these things, these situations properly? Why can't they just say, you know what? I'm not really that much attracted to you, you know? I just used you as a placeholder. It wasn't all that, and it's never going to be. So take care of yourself, kid. Why not just say it? Why not just end it clearly? I mean, do you really want to see the person at the mall with their kids? 4 years? I don't know. I always imagine seeing exes with kids and whatever, anyways. Why not just tell the truth? Because a clean ending would force them to own too much, and that's why they don't want to give it. It would force them to admit that they encouraged you, your closeness, your love, your giving, and then they accepted things. They benefited from things. How long they let the ambiguity continue. A proper ending would require honesty. It would require them to say, yes, I let things go too far. I wasn't as attached as you were, and I let you stay attached because I was benefiting from your attachment. Yes, I accepted the care, the closeness, the access, maybe even intimacy, without being willing to carry the responsibility of a real actual attachment. Yes, I knew you cared more than I did for sure, and I still let the situation keep breathing. A lot of people don't want to tell that version of the story. Because why? It exposes them. They know the things you did. You know the things that you did. You know the things that you gave. You know the effort you put in. And sometimes people don't want to give you that closure, but they know what you did. But for some reason, when you're around and you have a conversation, they're like professionals at being able to dodge the real conversations and make you feel stupid for trying to bring up anything in the first place, simply because it exposes them. It gives them guilt. It creates a conflict. It damages their self-worth. And they want to keep that. So instead, they stay vague. They cool off without naming it, and probably without any good reason. They dodge direct questions. Maybe they even hide from you. Maybe they have to see you all the time. They start hiding in their car at work or finding little parts of the building to tuck away so that you can't see them. Maybe they answer around the issue anytime you talk about anything worthwhile talking about. They keep the whole thing soft, mushy, and foggy. And vagueness gives them something very useful: plausible deniability. Because if they never define it, right, they can later act like you imagined it. If they never say it plainly, they can later minimize what happened. If they keep the whole thing blurry enough, they can preserve their innocence while you are left carrying all of the consequences. And maybe their life isn't perfect, but whatever you've given into them has set them on their tidy little way. And it's not always about confusion. Some people really know what they're doing. Sometimes confusion protects them. And next, 7. Why the more invested person gets called obsessed. Here's why the social cruelty shows up. I mean, how really, I guess. Well, once the more invested person gets hurt, right? Once they start asking questions, once they struggle to detach from them, this other person, it becomes very easy to reduce all of that pain into one ugly word: obsessed. Too much, too emotional, too intense, unable to let go. It was just a tryst. But that word can hide a lot, really, because sometimes what gets called obsession is really unresolved attachment inside of a bond that was encouraged, prolonged, and never clearly ended, and certainly was never defined. Sometimes what gets mocked as too much is actually the predictable fallout of ambiguity, intimacy, and avoidance, all mixed together. People judge the reaction without accounting for the pattern that produced it. They see the person later, they hurt the person. Well, no. They see the person later, and that's the hurt person, the exposed person, the one still trying to talk, the one still settling. But they did not see the whole chain. They did not see the warmth, the access, the invitation, the mixed signals, the benefits that got accepted without any clear ending. So now the reaction becomes the problem instead of the pattern. That reversal is unfair, deeply unfair. Calm is not always innocence, and visible pain is not always obsession. Sometimes visible pain is just what the unresolved ambiguity looks like in public. And another one, 8. One more moment feels like a rescue. Really? Rescue to what? This is the emotional center of the whole thing, right? Why do people still want more from this person? One more, few more, one more conversation, one more night, one more opening. Because one more moment feels like it might repair the story, not necessarily fix it, not necessarily turn it into a relationship, but maybe soften the humiliation, maybe validate the effort, maybe prove the whole thing was not just one-sided as it really, really looks at this point. Maybe leave you with one warm piece of evidence before the whole thing dies. That is why one last moment can feel almost irreversible, like it has to happen. You are not only wanting the person, you are wanting the emotional rescue. You are wanting one final experience that makes the story hurt less. But one last moment is dangerous because ambiguity is the hook. One last moment is the bait. It makes you think resolution is actually coming. What is really coming is another delay of grief. And grief delayed has a nasty way of hardening into obsession. Access is not attachment. Number 9. Here's the deeper truth that breaks a lot of people open. A person can enjoy access to you. That's right, you. Without actually wanting attachment to you. That's wild. They can like your presence, like your body, like your care, like your loyalty, like your patience, like your emotional atmosphere around you, right? And still not want the responsibility of choosing you properly. And that's where a lot of people just crack. Because they realize I was not imagining everything, right? But I was imagining what it meant. I try to give it meaning, but it's a waste of my time. Because the person realizes I was not just imagining everything, but I was imagining what things actually meant. Those are different. And that is totally brutal because it means there may have been real warmth from them. There may have been a real attraction. There were probably real moments of sincerity. But sincerity in moments is not the same as commitment in pattern. A person can be drawn to you and still not build with you. A person can desire you and still not protect the bond. A person can appreciate you and still not treasure you properly. And if you do not recognize the difference, you will keep feeding a connection that has already showed you where and how high the ceiling is. And then number 10, the attachment breaks when patterns become enough. Now, let's get to the part that actually starts breaking the attachment. Freedom does not usually begin when they finally explain everything perfectly. That explanation may never actually come, or if it comes, it may still be foggy, self protective, incomplete. Freedom begins when you stop making their words the only valid form of truth. Freedom begins when you let the pattern count. What did the pattern produce in your life? Did it produce peace? Did it produce clarity? Did it produce stability? Did it produce mutual effort? Or did it produce overthinking, waiting, self doubt, humiliation, mind space theft, nervous system that never gets hostile? Well, I wouldn't say never gets hostile. A nervous system that doesn't settle. That is a cleaner question because even if their motives stay blurry, their effect on your life has been measurable. And that is where a lot of people finally face the truth they have been resisting. The reason you are still stuck may not be that you have no answers, because you probably do. You probably saw them a long time ago, even red flags. It may be that their behavior already answered you and you are still grieving the difference and their indifference to you. Between that answer and the story you wanted to save, it's hard, I know. Because now you are not only losing the person that you believe you're in love with, most likely, you are losing the interpretation, the imagined future, the role that you thought you had, the belief that your depth would eventually match with theirs. Because once you stop needing them to confirm your value, you start seeing more clearly their inability to hold you properly was not proof that you were hard to love. It was proof of their limits. Their vagueness was not proof that your feelings were ridiculous. It was proof that they benefited from not being pinned down to you. Their inconsistency was not proof that you lacked value. It was proof that they were unwilling or unable to meet the weight of what happened, what started. So let me answer the question directly. Why do you still want more time, more moments with someone whose behavior is already answered and give you the truth? Because the beginning gave you enough warmth, right? Because the middle gave you enough confusion to keep you hoping. Because the ending gave you enough vagueness to keep you reopening. Because shame made you want to repair. Because effort made you want your dignity back. Because one more moment feels like it might validate everything you felt, everything you gave, everything you risked. But one more moment usually does not rescue you. It rehooks you. It gives you the wound fresh for the air. It delays the grief. It tells the mind to stay open a little bit longer. So no, you're not crazy. You're just human. I'm only human. You gotta, well, you got attached to a place where energy arrived before structure, where warmth arrived before honesty, where access felt like selection, where desire felt like direction, where the ending came through pattern instead of truth. Of course, that can trap a person, but healing starts when you stop asking for closure in language of one more chance. Healing starts when you let pattern be answers. Not because words don't matter, right? Because your life matters more than waiting forever for somebody to become honest about what their behavior has already done and made plain. And maybe one of the hardest lessons in a relationship is this: not everyone who opens a door wants to build a home. Some people offer a moment, right? Some people offer a few months. Some offer a year. Some offer off and on for 3 or 4. Some offer access. Some offer heat. Some offer pieces. Some offer enough to wake something up in you, but not enough to carry what waking it up would cost walking. And that's sad. And it is damaging. But it's also information. Don't forget that part of it. The bond was vague, yes, but the damage was definitely specific. The ending was soft, but the effect was sharp. The words were blurry, but the pattern was not. And peace does not come back because they finally explain it beautifully. Peace comes back when you stop offering your life to a pattern that already showed you its ceiling. And that is the real thing. Not that they finally chose you, right? Not that they finally gave you the line you deserve. Now that they finally made the whole thing make sense, but that you finally stopped needing them. And for some of you, that will be the first quiet night you have had in a very, very long time. All right, y'all. I'm going to end it right there. Listen, you're not crazy. You tried to back out, they pull you back in. They try to get all cozy with you and nice with you, intimate maybe slightly, or give you indications of it. If you're a believer, keep on believing. If you're not, consider what you believe. But trust in the Lord and lean not unto your own understanding. And in all your ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your path, as the Bible says. Anyhow, y'all, until next time, this is MCM signing off. Peace out.
Hey, come check out You Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 ducks. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, well, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.